Okay, hello Sturgeon Falls Curling Club. So this video is being made for anybody that wants to update your website now or in the future. I figured the best way to do this is to do it in a tutorial video, so here we go. So first thing you're going to want to do is you need a program that you can use to update your website using your FTP information, your FTP username and password. So the first step, there are a number of programs you can use to do this. The best one is Dreamweaver. That's an Adobe product, but you do have to buy the license for that. It's a couple $100. So if you want to use a free solution that works just as well, almost just as well, it's called Microsoft Web Expressions. So to download that, you're going to want to go on, open up an internet browser, and Google Microsoft Web Expression, and that's going to bring up some options. It's this Microsoft Web Expression 4 is the one you're going to want to download. So you just download that to your computer, install it to your computer. So anybody who wants to do updates will want to have this program installed. Okay. From there, once you have it installed, you'll want to open it. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new, and basically set up the site on here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need a local folder to save your files that you work on onto. So just create a new folder on your desktop, so whoever's working on it can have their own local folder. And we'll just call this SFCC.ca. So now if we go back into Microsoft Web Expressions, you can see that we have nothing going on right now. It's completely blank, completely empty. This is a new blank slate. So we're going to want to go up to Site here and click on New Site. So in here we're just going to say a one-page site. That's fine. This isn't going to matter anyways. Down here where it says location, you're going to want to click browse and then locate that folder we just created on your desktop, sfcc.ca. It'll show nothing in there because it's empty. Then you just click open. So now that's going to link the location of your local copy to that folder that we created. We're going to want to call it sfcc.ca on your managed list. So just make sure you've done that and that's checked. Click OK. So it's going to create a new site on the back end, on your end. First thing we're going to do is just delete this one that says default.html, because we're not actually creating a new site. We're going to be pulling the information from the internet of your existing website. So from here you have a number of options down here. The two tabs you're really going to want to know are folders and publishing. Folders brings up your local copy, which we've linked to, and publishing will show what's on your local copy as it relates to what's on the internet on your remote server, which is what your FTP information links to. Now this FTP information, your username and password and FTP address, I'm going to email that to Jamie so he'll have that on file. So and then also if you guys misplace it, I'll keep it in my logins list as well for the future. So if you ever misplace it or need that information, I'll have it on file for you. So the first thing we're going to do, we need to add a publishing destination. So this is where your website is located on the internet. This is what people view when they go to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to call it remote server. That's pretty much what you want to just call any remote server. It's just remote server. The location is this is going to be your FTP address. So I've got that on a separate file. I'm just going to copy it over. This is an FTP IP address. You could also use sfcc.ca, but it is a lot more efficient and better to use your actual IP address. You'll have less glitches and better connectivity. So that's your best bet. It's just best practice. Username, which goes here, and the password, which I'm not going to say because I don't want to give that away to anybody that might be publicly viewing this video. And then you just want to leave the use passive FTP selected. I wouldn't worry about this field for the simultaneous connections. leave it at 4, that's fine. Leave the directory field blank, and we'll click add. So now that's going to add that to the existing copy on your file, and basically link that remote server location to your local copy. So here's your local copy on this side. It's empty, it's blank, and this is what's on the internet on your remote server. This is what shows online. This is all the files associated with your website right here. So what you ultimately want to do is, there's 2 ways you can go from here. One, and best practice would be to take all of these files and move them on, and create a copy. And sorry, by selecting and moving them over, you will create a copy. It won't move them. It'll just create a copy on your local computer of all the files. That way it's like a backup from when you started working on it. That's best practice. It takes several minutes for all the files to move over. So I'm going to pause this video, and I'll be back once that upload is complete. So I'm just unpausing the video just to show you what the copying file screen looks like. You can see that it is currently moving all these files over. So there again, it's going to take several minutes to complete this, so I'm just going to pause the video again. So I'm actually going to show you guys another way to do this. So I've canceled that operation. Another way that you can do this is to use this get files from the destination, as opposed to clicking and dragging them over. It's probably best practice just to get used to doing that. So this get files from the destination site, and then right above it, this publish files to the destination site. I want to get you used to using these. So I don't really need a full copy on my server, so I'm just gonna, on my local computer. So I'm just gonna move over the index file, and this is your home page. So index is what we call a home page. The other pages are a little bit more explanatory, like about.php, so that's your about page. The reason why index, so if I visit your site, for example, and I go to sfcc.ca/about.php, it's going to bring up that page that we see here as about.php. Whereas if I bring up, I can bring up index.php, and it will bring me to that page, but you can see that this is just your home page. I can just go to sfcc.ca and it'll bring up your home page, and that's the only page on your website that's automated like that. That's just the way the internet works, the way it functions. So if you have an index page on your site, it's going to automatically default it as your home page. So if you were to remove index.php from your site, your home page would no longer show up. So that's an important one to have on there. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to pull the about page just to show you. So I can pull these various folders and files over. A lot of these folders you're not going to really need to know about just yet, but you got all your images and things like that. This is where things link to. So now that we've got these over here, I want to kind of show you how to modify them. We could continue going on and bring everything over, and I would recommend that your users who are going to be doing your updates should bring all of these folders over and then even back them up. It's a good practice. It's something I do. I manage a lot of different sites, and one of the things I do quite a bit is I do backup sites. So you'll see that I do have backups for Sturgeon Falls Curling Club from December 1st of last year. I think that's when we first started working on the site, January 5th and May 22nd, which I think was just after launch. So that was in the spring when we were doing the Pike tournament updates. So if you ever get in a position where you're stuck and you need to go to a backup, I do have a couple of them, but I would like to see you guys starting to do that as well. I really don't want to be the crutch that you guys fall back to all the time. It's important that you learn how to do this on your own. So let's go in and let's modify the about page just to show you how this works. So when you double click on about, this is what's great about using a tool like Microsoft Expression Web or Dreamweaver, is it's going to show you the code, the HTML code up here. And for those of you that don't know how to use code, this can be a little tricky. I know you guys used to use an admin panel that was a fairly dated admin panel. Now the problem with doing that is over time you use those types of features, and they're drag and drop, so you can drag around elements and move them around, and it'll automatically adjust the HTML for you, which is great and convenient for you. But over time, it starts to really mess up modifying your pages, and that's where you guys had reached a point last December where you couldn't even do your updates anymore, because you would try to change something and it wouldn't work because the HTML was so messed up at that point from just being changed so many times the wrong way that it screwed everything up. So it's important to have at least a little bit of knowledge with HTML. It's really not difficult. It's very logical. For example, you can see here, this is your paragraph. So it starts with a P. It's a P tag, and the end of this page is going to have this ending, this closing tag for the paragraph tag. It's a very intimidating thing to look at for the first time, HTML code, but I'll show you guys where you can find some HTMLs on YouTube as part of this video, so that you guys can watch some HTML tutorials on YouTube and learn it a little better, so you're more comfortable with it. But one of the great things about this program is it does show you a preview of the content of your page. Now, it's not going to be identical. It's just going to show some frames and things like that. But if you wanted to, you could use this frame to make some minor modifications. So say we wanted to change Sturgeon Falls Curling Club to the SFCC as opposed to that. So now you'll see that it's going to change it up here automatically for me. I wouldn't recommend that, because you can see how it adds this span tag in there now, and this is where you get into those issues. So it's probably best whenever possible, I'll just undo that, it's probably best whenever possible just to modify it up here. So select this text and go SFCC, okay, and then to save, you can either go to File, Save, or Control S. You know, I like using short keys, so I'm going to click Control S. So now you can see that's saved. Now, one thing to notice, if I modify this at all, you'll see how there's a star next to it now up here. That means that it's changed from the saved version you have on your local copy, keeping in mind that the changes I'm making right now are on your local copy, not your remote server. So see how I've changed this now. If I go to your website and go to the About page, it still shows Sturgeon Falls Curling Club here. It doesn't show SFCC like we changed it in here. And that's because I've only changed it on the local copy, which is on my computer, and nobody can view that until I make it public on the remote server. So what we're going to do, just to show you how this works, is we're going to go back to Site View here. Now, Site View is going to allow us to look at folders. We're going to want to look at the publishing there again. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use these arrows to publish the file to the destination site, so to the remote server. So by clicking on the About page and clicking on the Publish arrow, it's going to now publish that. And you'll see if I was doing multiple files, it would have popped up down here and it would have showed you the status and how long it takes. So now if I go back to your website, and this is your live copy, you'll see it now says the SFCC not for profit. So it will. That's how you make changes in a nutshell to your website. So, yeah, that's about it. That's how you make the changes to your site. You just need to download Microsoft Web Expressions, get on your computer, and follow the steps I've shown you. Go on to YouTube when you have a chance if you want to get more comfortable with HTML, and look up HTML tutorials. And you'd be amazed what's on here. As a matter of fact, I started out as a webmaster learning from these HTML tutorials online. You know, I didn't take this in school. It was just something I was taught. I learned myself by using these tutorial videos. You can also learn CSS, which is a way that you style your web pages. Oh, pardon me, that's not the right one. How you style your web pages is called CSS, and that's a little bit of a different coding language. There again, it's very simple to use, and once you understand CSS and HTML, you can pretty much build a website on your own. You don't really need to know JavaScript and all that other fancy stuff. HTML and CSS is all you need to know. So you can look up CSS tutorials, and it'll show you these beginning tutorials. These are very valuable. They don't take long to watch, and once you've watched them, you're just going to go, oh wow, I can't believe I was so intimidated by this to begin with. It's just, your eyes are looking at something very different for the first time. That's why it's so intimidating and overloading. But once you know how to use it, it's so simple. So that concludes this tutorial. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me by email at Karl, Karl.Lundgren, Lundgren, at me.com. I am quite busy from time to time, so sometimes if you catch me on a bad day, I might be grumpy. If you catch me on a good day, I'll probably be the first person to call you up and help you out however I can. But it just depends on when you catch me, unfortunately. But if you have any questions, shoot me an email, and I'll do my best to help you. All right, thanks, guys, and best of luck.